Hello and welcome to my video today. So today I'm going to be playing Vampire The Masquerade Bloodlines, the original, with the 8.8 unofficial plus patch. So I'll leave a link in the description on how to get that particular patch if you are interested in the game. You can find a copy of the game on the Steam page website. Steam page or website, yeah. So you've got your multiple different clans. I got a little booklet from when the game first came out, when I had the CD edition. I have not been able to find the CD edition. I think I left it at my parents when I was living with them. So a bit unfortunate with that, but it does go into a bit more of the advantages and disadvantages of each class. So you've got your Bruja, your Grangle, your Malkavian, Nosferatu, Toreador, Tremere, and Ventrue. These are all of the current, at this point in the games, Camarilla factions. As we go through the game, you'll learn a bit more about what the Camarilla is, and your place in vampire society just a little bit throughout the game. So each clan has their own buffs and weaknesses, as I've mentioned, your advantages and disadvantages. You've got Frenzy predominantly with your Bruja and your Bruja or Bruja and your Grangle, or Gangrel, it depends on how you say it. The multiple pronunciations I've heard throughout both the games, and multiple other people talking about, the game and all that stuff. You've got your Malkavian, your Nosferatu, who are your standouts as far as Vampire Society. Tremere are somewhat standouts, as they are generally ones shunned by most of Vampire Society. In fact, they'll sometimes even shun themselves. So Malkavians are, for lack of a better word, insane. But they're not. So the insanity is just a part of their vampire abilities presenting itself. You can come off as insanity for a lot of them, because basically some of them have split personalities, some of them have, they hear voices or see things that aren't there, and it's very one of those things where it can definitely seem as insanity, but the thing with their insanity is that it generally is them speaking truths that they've perceived but can't understand, which you'll definitely hear whenever you're playing a Malkavian. You'll hear yourself saying something, or you'll read what you're saying, and it will actually have more truth in it as far as the story goes, and as far as that person's personality and backstory, than it first gives sight to, it's like doublespeak almost. And some of the older vampires tend to fear this clan in particular because of the fact that the insanity tends to tell truths or allow them to see the truths and secrets of other vampires. So a lot of them tend to shun the Malkavians for that particular reason. Not only that, but a Malkavian can literally, go off the deep end and start trying to kill everyone. So you've got that part of it. Then you got your Nosferatu, who are your traditional old vampire clan. they're kind of like, yeah, the very disfigured, kind of malformed version of the vampire, but they're also one of the heavily, like the strongest, I'd say, insofar as brute strength and the ability to gather intelligence. They're often used in either the Sabbat or in the Camarilla, which they're primarily, at least certain parts of this clan, are fixed with the Camarilla, used as information gatherers and assassins and sometimes enforcers. Um, you cannot go out in public with a Nosferatu because they are seen as being horrible to look at. And I don't mean that in the slightest. You're just, as soon as you go out, everyone knows you're a vampire and goes, fuck that. And you pretty much are literally breaking the masquerade just by being out. You're like a crime against humanity as far as, it's concerned. So you tend to have to use like the rat ways and shadows and whatchamacallit, one of your abilities, which you share with the Malkavians, which is obfuscate, or obfuscate, which is the ability to turn invisible. They also have potence and animalism. Potence is literally enhancing your supernatural strength with a further boost to supernatural strength. Animalism is literally using what they say the beast within to basically project particular actions. So you say you can bring out a raven to distract an enemy, or you can shoot like a burrowing beetle, which is like a giant beetle that just basically starts killing the enemy from the inside out. Then you've got a spectral wolf, which basically just spawns up behind them and starts, eating the head off. Then you've got Bat Communion, which basically just sends a whole load of bats out. Then basically they start drinking the blood of the opponent, sometimes killing them, sometimes not, depending on the type of enemy. And then it basically sends a whole load of blood back to you, basically buffing you up a bit. Then you've got Pestilence, which is basically just like a bee swarm or wasp swarm, or it gets a bit biblical with that, where basically it just eviscerates your enemy, like they've just been blasted with a massive amount of sand. That's the way it looks to me, anyway. Now, going down, you've got your kind of like Twilight vampire, the Toreador. They don't glow or shine or flicker or whatever, but they're pretty much the pretty boys of the Vampire Society. They're very, I'd say protesty, but they're not. They're very, woe is me and looking into other people, and they're very empathetic to others, but in such a way that's like hurtful. They look at the way things are and they feel bad about them, their state. They're like the tortured genius or tortured artist, as it were. But yeah, their abilities are celerity, their presence, and their ability to see things. So it basically increases their wits and perception, and then the celerity basically speeds you up exponentially, so you move a lot faster, while everything moves roughly about the same speed. Pardon me, I've got a bit of a cough. Presence basically just makes everyone stop and look at you and makes them a lot less effective at attacking you. Then you've got your, Kings of the Camarilla, the Ventru. they're supposedly the leaders, or leaders in their life, businessmen, entrepreneurs, higher echelons of society like princes, nobles, kings of their kind. Um, their abilities to me seem fairly weaker than a lot of the other vampires, but at the same time they're also pretty strong. They're very well respected within the Camarilla, and your character technically, well, won't start off that way, but your, how to put it, when you're a Ventru, people tend to follow you whether or not they mean to or not. But as you can read the Ventru descriptions, their biggest weakness is that they vomit whenever they feed on someone who is lowborn. You got your Fortitude, which is increased resistance to bleeding, bashing, damage. So whenever you get hit by something, you'll take less damage. Dominate is a very strong ability. Basically, it's like mind control. You can command them to pretty much just stay in a trance state. Then you got Brain Wipe, which basically makes them forget that you were ever there. You got Sleep, which makes them pretty much just pass out for a set period of time. These ones are the strongest ones, which is Suicide, and then Possession. Depending on which version, the next one up will be Mass Suicide, which is basically just kills everyone surrounding you. They just like off themselves. So it can be pretty brutal. And then they've got presence like the Toreador. The Bruja are probably closer in their abilities to the Toreador and the Nosferatu. They have the ability of celerity, potence, and presence. So a lot more closer to the Toreador, but they're pretty like they're known for being they're rebels of society, and that wasn't necessarily how they always were. Before they were like radical, rights for the people. Everyone should be living in an anarchic state of mind and all that. They used to be known for their more philosophical side and were a lot more like the Toreador during their, height of power in the city of Carthage, where they had their own kind of paradise where they were said to have been known by the humans there to be like the humans were aware of their vampire state and philosophical state. It's pretty much the height of their utopian society, which was basically destroyed by the Camarilla, if I remember correctly, when their Bruja were not part of the Camarilla, because the Bruja were for Carthage, whereas the Ventru were for Rome. So yeah, and then you've got your Wrangle, who are more closer to their beast, and they're very prone to frenzying. They've got abilities that are, a bit over the place. They've got Fortitude, which is their ability to take more damage. Then they've got Animalism, which is, the ability to summon, different forces. And then they've got one that's very unique compared to some of the other ones, which is Protein. Now, what Protein does is it pretty much, the further in rank you go, the more of like a bat werewolf thing you become, which is like, first level you go up with is Feral Claws, which is like, you literally get the weapon of claws on your fingers. Then you've got the Will of the Wolf, which basically just increases the amount of damage and stamina you have. Then Night Hunter, you start looking a bit more animalistic at this stage, and then Warform literally transforms you into like a werewolf, like a human-sized werewolf, which would make more sense if, you know, the fact that, you know, werewolves weren't giant beasts that had already existed in the game, but, you know, anyway. Then you've got your Tremere, who are outcasts of vampire society because of the fact that they were humans who, like human mages, who basically de-alberized a vampire to become vampires themselves to have, you know, gain immortality. And yeah, that it's basically stripped them of magic arts and all that stuff, and they gained the ability Taumaturgy, which is basically blood magic. But as you see through the game, there are some interesting uses of Taumaturgy, which can be pretty interesting. And then last not least, going back to the Malkavian, you've got the ability to have increased awareness, which makes sense considering they're one of the ones that, you know, perceive things that can't normally be perceived. Then they've got Dementation, which is very unique to their clan, which is they can channel the madness or the insanity that they have that they can somewhat handle, but a normal person cannot handle their insanity. So it basically, Dementation, basically, the higher it is, the more demented your character is, the more they see things. And it can basically, when it's transferred to another, have different effects. So you got the Veil of Madness, which basically, I think it's like the crows, basically just stops the person from doing a whole lot of stuff. They kind of just freak out for a set period of time, losing it. Mass Hallucination, it's pretty much the same thing, only it happens to a larger group of people and weakens them. Voice of Bedlam, that one is the one where the person pretty much breaks down. Then Vision of Death, they just kind of commit suicide, and then Berserk Insanity, like the mind control one, they just attack other people. And then, like the Nosferatu, they've got Obfuscate, which is basically invisibility, and the higher you've got, the more powerful it becomes. So that's the rundown of the different clans from the start. So one of my favorite clans, like I tend to love all the clans, and I've played every single one of them at least once through a whole playthrough. Certain characters gain certain benefits depending on which clan they're a part of from certain groups. So as a Nosferatu, you'll gain benefits from the Nosferatu clan. As a Ventrue, you'll tend to gain a bit more ire, but a bit more respect from other vampires as a Ventrue. And then as a Tremere, you'll get more kind of inward kind of abilities and, you know, stuff like that from being a Tremere. In Toreador, you kind of get more of a mention, but other vampires will, you know, notice that, you know, you're a pretty boy vampire. And then as a Bruiser, some of the more rebel kind of Bruiser groups will kind of be like, you know, a bit more to your side. They're not overly because of your situation, but anyway. So I'll be probably playing as a Tremere because it's one of my clans I like playing. They have another debuff as well, which is that basically they can't raise a lot of their physical prowess abilities to max, depending on certain things. Yeah, there we go. No attribute above 4. So you can only go up to level 4. You can't max that out. I think it's to balance the character out. I will skip the intro, should I skip the intro? I don't know. I'll let you guys decide. No. No, I'll play the intro. It's a bit naughty, but, you know, you don't really see anything, so it's fine. And then with the plus, they have added histories. So what history is it was a actual thing that they were going to add into the original game, but they cut out due to the fact that it wasn't fully fleshed out properly. So you can activate it in the vanilla game using the console command, but if you get the plus patch, you don't really need to. The unofficial patch I do suggest getting as well, because with certain things in the game, sometimes they break, especially since you know, newer Windows operating systems and new software and stuff like that. So it's always good that it's got such a strong community that loves the game so much to fix those problems. But anyway, this has been the overview of the game. So yeah, thank you for coming to my channel, and I hope you enjoyed this particular video. And the next video will be me starting the game.